Welcome back to News Nexus, where knowledge meets curiosity. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most defining chapters in U.S. history, the Great Depression, a financial catastrophe that reshaped economies, societies, and governments across the world. But more importantly, we'll explore how America managed to recover from the worst economic crisis of the 20th century. This is a story of collapse, struggle, and an inspiring comeback. So sit tight as we take you on a journey through one of the most fascinating periods in modern economic history. Let's start at the beginning, the infamous Wall Street crash of 1929. The roaring 1920s had created a bubble. Stocks were soaring, businesses were expanding, and consumer optimism was at an all-time high. But beneath the glittering surface, the economy was dangerously fragile. It was a house of cards built on excessive debt, rampant speculation, and overproduction. On October 24, 1929, panic selling began, a day remembered as Black Thursday. Investors rushed to liquidate their stocks, driving prices into a tailspin. This panic intensified over the next few days, culminating on Black Monday and Black Tuesday, when billions of dollars vanished from the market in a matter of hours. The crash devastated Wall Street, but the real disaster was only beginning. The crash set off a chain reaction throughout the economy. Banks began to fail at alarming rates. Over 9,000 banks closed their doors during the 1930s. As banks collapsed, millions of Americans lost their savings. Businesses, starved of credit, began shutting down. Factories laid off workers. Unemployment soared from just 3% in 1929 to a staggering 25% by 1933. 1 in every 4 Americans was jobless. Soup kitchens and breadlines became a common sight in cities across the country. Families lost their homes, and many were forced to live in makeshift shantytowns known as Hoovervilles, named bitterly after President Herbert Hoover, who many believed had failed to prevent the disaster. As the economy crumbled, nature delivered another cruel blow. In the early 1930s, the Great Plains region of the United States experienced severe drought. Years of overfarming and poor soil conservation had left the land vulnerable to erosion. Without rain, the dry soil turned to dust, and strong winds carried it across thousands of miles. This became known as the Dust Bowl. Entire farms were wiped out. Crops failed, livestock died. Families that had depended on the land for generations were forced to pack their belongings and migrate westward, especially to California, in search of work and a better life. The Dust Bowl added a humanitarian disaster to an already devastated economy. In the face of this catastrophe, President Hoover believed that the economy would correct itself. His administration's response focused on voluntary cooperation from businesses and limited government intervention. Hoover encouraged employers not to cut wages and urged banks to lend more freely. But without decisive action, the crisis only deepened. Public anger against Hoover grew, and by 1932, Americans were desperate for new leadership and a new direction. Enter Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected president in 1932 with a promise of a New Deal for the American people. Roosevelt's approach was bold, experimental, and transformative. Upon taking office in March 1933, he acted quickly to restore confidence. One of his first moves was declaring a bank holiday, temporarily closing all banks to stop the panic. Within days, he signed the Emergency Banking Act, which stabilized the financial system and reassured depositors that their money was safe. But the New Deal was much more than a single law. It was a sweeping set of programs, reforms, and regulations designed to provide relief, recovery, and reform. For relief, Roosevelt created jobs and direct aid programs for the unemployed. Agencies like the Civilian Conservation Corps hired young men for environmental projects, while the Federal Emergency Relief Administration provided direct financial assistance to those in need. For economic recovery, the New Deal launched ambitious public works projects to stimulate demand and create jobs. The Public Works Administration built dams, bridges, and schools. The National Recovery Administration worked to stabilize wages and prices, encouraging fair competition and improving working conditions. For reform, Roosevelt focused on creating long-lasting safeguards to prevent future economic collapses. The Social Security Act of 1935 provided pensions for the elderly, unemployment insurance, and aid to the disabled and dependent children. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation guaranteed bank deposits, restoring faith in the banking system. The Securities and Exchange Commission was established to regulate the stock market and prevent abuses that had contributed to the 1929 crash. Roosevelt also became known for his fireside chats, informal radio broadcasts where he explained his policies directly to the American people. These broadcasts were both calming and empowering, helping to rebuild public trust in government and the economy. While the New Deal brought significant improvements, it was not enough to fully restore the economy to pre-depression levels. Recovery remained sluggish through the late 1930s, and unemployment still hovered around 15% by the end of the decade. But then another global event reshaped the U.S. economy almost overnight: World War II. As the world descended into war, the United States ramped up production of military equipment, weapons, and supplies. Factories that had once stood idle were now humming with activity. Millions of men joined the armed forces, while millions more, including women, filled jobs in factories and shipyards. Wartime demand erased unemployment and ignited a manufacturing boom. The American economy not only recovered but emerged stronger than ever before, cementing the country's status as a global superpower. The Great Depression left lasting scars but also profound lessons. It taught the world about the dangers of unregulated financial markets and the need for government intervention in times of crisis. The reforms of the New Deal laid the foundation for modern social safety nets and regulatory systems, many of which still protect consumers, workers, and investors today. The Great Depression also showed that in times of deep crisis, societies must adapt and innovate. From the collapse of Wall Street to the hardships of the Dust Bowl, from Roosevelt's New Deal to the industrial mobilization of World War II, the American story is one of resilience and reinvention. It's a reminder that no matter how severe the crisis, recovery is possible when people, policy, and leadership come together with determination and vision. Thanks for joining us on this journey through history. If you found this video informative, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to News Nexus, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring the world with us.